The film you're about to see represents this country and the people of Helena, Montana. Now, it's not just a story of Montanans, how they thrive in this community. It's how people live peacefully in a land still not heavily industrialized. In future years, many visitors will arrive in Helena, some as tourists, some to stay permanently. The city will develop and grow as others do of its size. And during its growth, the bond will remain between Montanans and their environment.
We hadn't seen the sun for days, but now its warmth lifted our spirits. Stanley's my name, Bob Stanley. Like a lot of other men before me, I was looking for the big strike, but no luck so far. My companions were just as discouraged as I was. From the south, John Crabby and his fellow Georgian, John Cowan. From the goldfields of California, D.J. Miller. Our supplies were short. We had to keep moving. We were returning from the Marias River country. Others had passed through this area before us, but they hadn't come up with much either. There was no mother rock in sight, and the valley looked no different than hundreds of others. But somehow I had a different feeling about this country. I guess I knew it was our last chance. We'd heard about the rattlers around here. A good-sized one. encountered plenty of hardships and disappointments in our long search, but it didn't seem to matter now. We had worked a lot of streams. Never had we seen such colors. The strike only yielded a small amount that day. In the next few years, over 30 million would be mined from the gulch, and a town would grow. My appearance may seem strange to you. I've come back to look this country over. Now, this country appears even stranger to me. It wasn't long before I discovered a plaque in memory of our strike. And even now, I remember so clearly. A lot of strangers showed up. Claim jumping became a favorite pastime. Local folks had difficulty in naming our new town. Squashville and Pumpkin Town were suggested. Horsefly Heaven was another favorite name. But finally, on October 30th, 1864, the town was officially named Helena. In one block, no less than 25 drinking establishments undermined the miners. A woman could go further with a little paint than a man with a Winchester and a side of bacon. Helena was becoming the richest town in the territory. And the most lawless. To discourage lawbreakers, vigilantes were formed. They weren't too discreet about their methods. Hard rock mining was becoming more profitable. For the first time, miners worked for a daily wage. Millions flowed from mines like the Drum Lemon, the Big Ox, and countless others. In order to be a member of the Montana Club, a man had to be at least a millionaire. Large, fancy homes dotted the landscape. One old-timer complained, you could walk yourself sober just trying to find the front door. Downtown Main Street displayed some of the finest architecture in the Northwest. Speaking of fancy buildings, the Broadwater Hotel was really something. The natatorium housed the largest indoor swimming pool in the world. In less than 50 years, Helena had grown from bedrock to the most fashionable town in the West. Today, Helena has come a long way from the flapping canvas of a miner's tent. Cradled along the eastern slopes of the Rockies, Helena is still experiencing a steady growth. In 1874, after a dubious ballot, Helena became the third capital of Montana Territory. Now it's the permanent capital of the state, with a tribute to its first acting governor, Thomas Meyer. There's a great contrast in Helena's architecture, from the conventional and Gothic to the minareted tower of the Civic Center. A special tour train enables visitors to look over Helena's main street, Last Chance Gulch, still dominated by the majesty of the 19th century. Reflected in unparalleled elegance are the homes of a special era, like the governor's old mansion, in use until a few years ago, and now a historical point of interest. Helena's going through a time of change. A number of older buildings are being replaced by structures of a modern city. Another attraction for Helena visitors is Reader's Alley. Its small shops offer original art, historical artifacts, many antiques, and fine food at the Stonehouse restaurant. The threat of fire in the gulch was constant. The fire tower still remains, pondering yesteryear. The Cathedral of St. Helena was erected in 1912 by mining millionaire Thomas Cruz in memory of his daughter. The church is patterned after the Cathedral of Cologne, Germany. The magnificent interior reflects the finest craftsmanship in the world. Carroll College, named after Helena's second bishop and dedicated by President Taft, has become the community's higher educational center. The school offers a progressive scholastic curriculum and a competitive spirit. The Montana Historical Society is dedicated to Montana's cowboy artist, Charles M. Russell. He chronicled on canvas and in bronze a time of life that all too rapidly passed away. Also housed in the museum is the Tau Antique Ford collection. And 13 buildings make up Territory Junction, complete with actual objects of goods and services available at various business establishments in the 1880s. The saloon is typical of those I remember, where an evening sometimes ended in frayed tempers and a crease that went deeper than the one in your hat, usually the result of a questionable wager. Atop the Continental Divide is Frontier Town, built entirely by one man, John Quigley. I'd heard he's a little ornery.
What the hell?
I was dead wrong. John was more than friendly, like he is to all the folks around these parts. The big strike at Helena wasn't the only one. There were others. Most are not much more than a memory. And yet there are people who still recall how it was.
As I remember, it was about 1893 or 4. The entire town turned out to see the first NP train pull into Marysville. All those great places, all those mines, all those buildings that men had to put together in order to exist. It's not like it was. It's different.
The deep shafts and long tunnels are still here, just scars. But the mirage has faded. The country around here is mineral rich, so it's only natural for a man to want to scratch the surface for another of nature's rare jewels, sapphires. One of the Earth's most elusive precious stones, sapphires are still sought after by thousands trying their luck along the El Dorado Bar. It was discovered back in 1865, just a year after our big strike. wandering Missouri can carry an individual along the same route traveled by Lewis and Clark on their expedition of 1805. When Meriwether Lewis observed its dominating landscape, he wrote, "The cliffs were the most remarkable he'd ever seen. Vast columns of rocks, mountainous high, a river forcing its way through an immense body of rock." He said it was a most singular appearance, and he called it the Gates of the Rocky Mountains. From the headwaters of the Missouri, not far from Helena, the streams and rivers in this country are endless. About this time of year, a man's attitude takes a turn. So does the country around him. Makes a man want to get out and catch the feel of it. In the high country, there's a special quiet about the winter. It wraps itself around the country, even brings out the royalty of wildlife. Helena's winters generally are mild. Sure, a way of life changes. Allows a man to collect his thoughts and take in other activities. I was camped on an open ridge, appearing like a great sleeping giant. I'd been snowshoeing the high country when I heard something very strange, something I'd never heard before. Folks hear about don't want to sit around and wait for the snow to melt. They like to get out and play in it. Some even feel that this is the ultimate in travel. Surprising how a man can change his ways. Now, there are, of course, others who feel differently about traveling the high country. The whole country seems to break wide open in the spring, where everyone shares a long pause till summer, including some of the local menagerie. You know, as long as I've been in this country, I can never get over how big it is. Sort of spreads out like the palm of a giant hand. Another thing I can't overlook is the people. The young, with an enthusiasm as big as this country they live in. They show it every year during one of the Northwest's more notable pageants, Vigilante Day. These people have a way of getting together. It's how much they give of themselves in everything they do. They're sort of smiling at life, maybe a little playfully, but then they like to play hard. They don't move anything by wagon anymore. Everything's carried by rail, truck, and air. Everything from cars to lumber products. Even fire engines built in Helena move out in a hurry for use all over the country. They even manufacture their own paint in the capital city. No more of the firewater of my day. Now, Helena boasts the only bottling plant in the state. Mining is still here. 5 miles from Helena is one of the country's largest smelters. But agriculture is still the biggest industry in Montana, and probably will be for some time. Livestock, that's big business too. When you take a look at these breaks around the valley, you can understand why. Yeah, some of the finest stock comes from this part of the country. These cowhands work hard, but they still find time to mount the deck of a seasoned bronc at Helena's biggest annual event, the Last Chance Stampede. You know, there's a lot going on out here. It takes a little time to realize it, but these people know what time is. It doesn't concern them. They've learned how to live that full and easy way of life. As I rode from this valley for the last time, I could see where these people had built more than a town. And I couldn't help but wonder what it might look like in another 100 years.